Greetings, Dr. Gold. Thank you so much for joining me today to discuss Metta Mindfulness Music's new album celebrating the record label's 15th anniversary. I'm excited to dive into a variety of questions you may have never been asked before. But let's start simple.
Okay. Thanks, Pete.
Oh, of course. So glad you're here. So glad to talk to you. Okay, how did the idea come up to do this 15th anniversary album? And how did you decide on the 15 tracks featured in the collection?
Well, I'll do the second one first. Over the last 15 years, we've worked with a number of different artists, a number of different styles of music, a number of different instruments. We got into vocals, we got into a cappella. We've just covered a lot of territory, all within the same framework of music that is going to support meditation, mindfulness, brain health, relaxation, stress management, and even I would even say a little bit even to pathology, although we don't diagnose or treat specifically. We've accomplished a lot, especially because of our humble beginnings, which was really just an idea that floated into my head, and I presented to Yuval, which actually followed a random, unexpected meeting where we thought we'd do one project and see what happens. And here we are, we're teenagers now. We're 15 years old. We have a little self-awareness, and we looked back. We thought it was a good time to take that step back, to evaluate what we've accomplished, and to come up with not a greatest hit so much because we had to leave so many things out, but to use a variety of our tracks and just present it to our worldwide audience as a compilation rather than just be in one mode, to expand that mode.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Well, as a teenager now, 15 years, could you have imagined 15 years ago where MMM would be today?
Not
How?
even close. As I mentioned, Yuval and I met at the legendary seminar center known as Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California, perched up on the cliffs right above the crashing Pacific, famous for its hot tubs and the legendary people that have been there over the years. We were both teaching separate workshops. I was there with my wife and small children who aren't so small anymore, and likewise Yuval. And we really had no contact until the last day, getting ready to leave. And we, without any planning, we ended up in Morro Bay. We neither of us thought we would be there. I'd never stopped there before. He hadn't either. Not only did we stop there, we moved our dinner reservation up an hour, and he and his family walked into the same restaurant,
Wow.
and they had no reservation. They just were walking around. It looked like a good place right on the harbor there. And I was already using sound, especially just raw binaural beats, to facilitate my meditation practice. And I was aware of Yuval. We bought some of his CDs when we left. We played them on the way down, and I got a sense of where this genius was at. And I asked him, "Is there a way to bring a level of composition and performance to the new age or ambient music that's for meditation?" And a light bulb went off in his head. Coincidentally, but not coincidentally, my background's 45 plus years in Chinese medicine, and sound and healing is embedded in Chinese medicine from the get go. And so the first place to start was our first album or compilation, which is Six Healing Sounds. And again, we didn't anticipate going anywhere with it. I had no background in the music business. I'm an educator and a clinician primarily, and it's well known that doctors aren't necessarily good business people. But I was at a place in life where it's like, let's go for this. Let's see what happens. Our first production was such a pleasure to do together. It was so beautiful. Some of the tracks I listened to almost daily 15 years later. And we said, there's certainly a deep well of material to get into: ancient wisdom traditions, modern neuroscience, the evolving field of sound healing, the dramatic research that's coming out of major universities. And here we are 15 years later. Never dreamed of it. Never dreamed of it. It was
Wow.
never part of my dream. It's outside of my dreams.
It's amazing how things just come together.
Yeah, we there was a destiny in our meeting because we didn't take the first opportunity to even connect, and then an accidental connection, and
Meant to
we went
be.
for it. Went for it.
What would you say is your favorite thing about working with Yuval Ron?
That's a broad question. First of all, his heart. He's a just a magnificent human being, a caring person. He has his own foundation, Inspired Sound Initiative. Um, but I work with a lot of people with big hearts, but I mean, he is special. But I've been blessed in my career to work with a lot of wonderful people. He happens to be a musical genius, and he knows world music, and he's introduced me to instruments I never heard of. The Kamache, the sarong. I mean, the sarod I'd heard of, just unusual instruments from the steppes of Russia and the northern Afghanistan. Um, and through his 30 plus years in Hollywood, he knows a lot of renowned musicians and his connections in the film industry and the world music world. Um, so it's a combination of a heart, mind, soul, communication, a sense of humors. Our wives think that we just should be together creatively, and we meet even though we don't live in the same city. We meet weekly. We meet whenever we can. Um, it's interesting. Sometimes when you're with people more, you like them less. Um, I've gone on two cultural tours. Actually, my wife and I, on two cultural tours, one to India and one in Cuba. And these were pretty, not stressful so much, but high powered experiences. And you've all just stayed even. I mean, it was really remarkable. And I really have grown increasingly fond and respectful of him. It's a real blessing to have this opportunity.
I agree, he's an amazing person. Um, let's see. Would you have any personal favorite achievement from the past 15 years in MMM? An album, maybe an artist you've collaborated with?
Certainly, but I would just say the fact that we've kept at it and now have hundreds of tracks and a worldwide audience in the millions is something special. But I would have to say what stands out because of its uniqueness, both artistically and scientifically, and the opportunity was when we did a 3 day residency at BYU, Brigham Young University in Utah. And you've all composed, and we recorded there with 40 singers, the BYU singers, extraordinary youthful voices. Um, Heal Me, which is the world's first a cappella 40 hertz production. It had to be at a place like that where you had a sound stage where 40 singers could be. Um, it's magnificent. It was Grammy nominated. Um, it was a pleasure to see you all work with a big chorus, and the choral director, Andrew Crane, Dr. Andrew Crane, was a wonderful person to collaborate with. And to get the feedback from the singers of how much they enjoyed doing it. And then we had the world premiere there that every seat in the auditorium was filled to a standing ovation. Um, was remarkable, a remarkable experience. It happens at Provo, Utah, where BYU happens to be gorgeous, and it was snow on the mountains, and it was really special.
Amazing. Um, you mentioned you're a clinical doctor. Has MMM, your projects at MMM informed your work in your clinical practice over the 15 past years?
It's not so much informed, but enhanced. Um, I practice clinical Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and I have a doctorate in psychology. I'm not a clinical psychologist, but I'm attuned to that metaphor, let's say. And our music, without the person even focusing on meditating or trying to meditate, facilitates change in brain waves. And in deep relaxation, healing can occur. So I've always used music. I remember the old days we used to have CD players, and actually cassette players and then CD players in the rooms, and then we went to an integrated system, and so yes, it's definitely informs. It's played in the lobby, so once people walk into our healing center, there's a vibe going. This is a place you can relax, let go. Um, I haven't so much because I'm working in a group practice with 12 treatment rooms. So if I'm working on someone, let's say in Chinese medicine, where I want to tonify the earth element, if I was working privately, I would play our earth track, for instance. So I don't have that freedom. But coincidentally, a lot of times when we're on a playlist, earth will show up at the right time. That kind of synergy happens. So, so
I
yes.
get the
The
sense
short
you
answer is
experience a
yes.
lot of synchronicities in your life.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. I think synchronicities are always happening for people. Most of the time, we're so caught up on our internal dialogue or internal story and our fears and our anticipations, we miss them.
Right.
So, a lot of, and I think MMM, the company for is helping us slow down,
Mhm.
and then these opportunities become more apparent.
As far as the scientific side goes, what do you see in the future for this field of sound healing and neuroscience? Where do you see it going? Do you anticipate any major discoveries in the near future?
I think a lot of those discoveries are known through antiquity, even, but we're looking for scientific verification. Um, it's always been a problem to get funding for research. It's probably more difficult now with the current political situation, cultural situation we're in. But there is emerging research. I think the most compelling research right now that's more recent came out of MIT with the 40 hertz gamma on brain health, where in studies, animal studies, they actually see the amyloid plaques and the tau proteins disappearing from the brains of lab animals when they're exposed to 40 hertz sound and light. With the tidal wave of dementia and Alzheimer's that's coming, this is really significant because it can be an ambient environmental thing, just playing music and having 40 hertz light bulbs in a room. Um, there is anecdotal information about in labs of seeing varying hertz frequencies simultaneously destroying cancer cells. Um, there's a lot happening anecdotally and in isolated places. Some people, it's been said for a while, for quite a while, is the future of healing in medicine is in sound and vibrational medicine. Um, that's going to be a long and hard haul because of the power of pharmaceuticals and the profitability of pharmaceutical companies. But there's certainly an emerging trend, and it doesn't have to be either or. There can be an integration of these approaches. Um, the ideas of mindfulness were unheard of, a couple, 3 decades ago in hospital environments, in classrooms, and it's become more and more common. Um, the growth of yoga in America is remarkable. I mean, it's seen a lot of times as an exercise, which it wasn't designed to be historically. But if along the way people become more self-aware and more aware of their bodies and they're facilitating their bodily health, all the better. But it'd be wonderful. And we've approached research centers, and they, if they say if you have $500,000, we'll do a research project for you. But besides our own little segment, the music business, except for if you're Beyonce or Taylor Swift or someone is a struggling industry. But we're in it
Right.
for the long haul. That's one reason we're celebrating 15 years now. We're looking forward to the next 15.
Amazing. It's so fascinating. Um, what would you hope to accomplish in the next 15 years
Well,
with
it's easy.
MMM?
You're a good interview because you segue right into things here. Um, well, we certainly want to keep producing. We want to be involved in studies if we can. There's some things that we're working on behind the scenes now, where I'm consulting on a program with sound and acupressure that is funded. Um, so we want to keep producing. We want to keep abreast of emerging science. We want to participate whenever we can. And we did this a couple, more than a few years ago now. We have a whole kids sanctuary program, which is just some's music and some's guided meditations for parents to use with their children. If we could bring mindfulness, and we can separate mindfulness from any kind of religious traditions or any spiritual practices even, but if we can bring a sense of mindfulness to troubled youth, it's invaluable. One area of concerns internationally in society is the dramatic increase in autism and spectrum people on the spectrum. And sound healing has shown some preliminary benefits in that regard too. So both our kids program and so we think that waiting rooms, rather than playing the news, would be well served to have not just our healing music, although we'd love it to be our healing music, but any kind of beneficial music. And dialysis, people are stuck in dialysis for hours, 3, 4 times a week. Um, Quit scrolling, close your eyes, get some positive input. Um, and so on and on and on. We're at the beginning of this. We're not even in the middle, even though, as I mentioned before, like in Chinese medicine, dating back over two centuries before the birth of Christ, 236 BC, the major initial text of Chinese medicine, the Yellow Emperor's Classic, assigned each of the energy flows of the body with a node, with a key. So what's emerging it's emerging from the past, but it's definitely being integrated into the modern world. So we're going to keep at it as long as we can.
Awesome. You sort of answered this next question, but if you could offer any words of wisdom to the future generations exploring this crossover of ancient wisdom traditions and modern neuroscience of sound, what would it be?
Jump in. It's a big pool. Creative work. We're actually um, we're trying to. We're not trying. We've already been in discussions with a emerging um, hip hop artist to try to reach that segment of people that were during such a critical time of their lives. They're so severely impacted by the pandemic, where people felt listless, useless, disenfranchised, and so we're trying to create a merger within that audience. Yuval and I both live in Southern California. We're not representative of the whole country. We're well aware of that. And so one of our efforts is to create a variety of tracks. And we're actually, one of our future projects is going to be a 40 hertz production that's geared to country western style music, because people all across this country will benefit from this. But if you're sitting, forgive me if I say this in any derogatory way, but if you're sitting, I'll say even my hometown, if you're sitting in a bar or at a football game in Cincinnati, Ohio, the sound of the sitar is not necessarily going to be appealing to you.
Right.
A three-string fiddle from the desert of Afghanistan is not going to be your cup of tea or your mug of beer. We should.
That's a
We
good
should
soundbite
copyright
right
that.
there.
So we're trying to find a way to appeal to as broad an audience as possible, and the spectrum from in utero babies to helping guide people at the end of life. Um, we know, again, this is very sounding quite California, but not necessarily, that people that are doing psychedelic assisted therapy, that the soundtrack geared to a journey can be critical. Um, Even though at a concert you might want to hear Led Zeppelin, but if you're in a therapeutic environment with PTSD, there's a journey, and we could gear a journey very specifically to sound. So we have plenty of work to do, and that's one reason we love working with you, Pete, and the other part of our team, because you're the next generation, and we need you bring new ideas to us. And for instance, we had never Yuval and I had never heard of chill hop beats, and when we did a chill hop beats album, I love listening to it, and I'm certainly out of that demographic. Um, of youth, that use it for study. I didn't realize my kids used it when they were in high school and college. And I came to them with this, this is such exciting. Listen, Dad, come on, get a life. So I'm very optimistic. We're non-toxic. We don't have negative side effects. It's very conducive to both the Western medical model and the Eastern medical model.
Awesome. Well, you've been at this for so long and you've accomplished so much. I'm wondering what keeps you going? What motivates you to keep creating more sound healing albums and courses with MMM?
Well, I think it's a privilege to have this opportunity. Um, I've been in the Chinese medicine field for over 45 years now. I taught for many years. I've published. Um, I've had hundreds of students. Um, my books have reached some thousands of people. Our music's reached millions of people globally. Um, it's just remarkable. Um, I I don't the concept of retirement doesn't I don't resonate with it, and I still see patients and still love that. Not at the same pace I used to. So I guess what motivates me is there's this opportunity, and it's a privilege and a blessing. And I would be turning my back on that to just say stop, and I don't want
Of
to.
course. Well, I certainly hope you don't. Um, what does 15 years of work mean to you and your legacy? Do you ever think about that word legacy?
Well, I do because my daughter's now a doctor of Chinese medicine. And it gets pointed out to me that, like, you must be so proud. Absolutely, I am. Um, and, people say that she can follow in your footsteps. And I go, well, actually, when I look at it, she's standing on my shoulders and she's going to go to heights that I've never reached. And that's how I view this is that, we're creating a foundation. We've maybe got some of the walls up, but we don't know how many stories high we can go. And and so I want to be as involved in that as much as I can. Um, the other thing about sound and music and recording is it exists outside of time in a sense, and certainly out of with streaming, it's there's no borders. Um, as the executive producer, I get information, some requested, a lot not. And I have, people writing me from Uzbekistan, and we've had meetings with people in Saudi Arabia. I had the opportunity to go to Brazil to teach. So it's just a remarkable opportunity. So wonderful.
If you could say anything to your past self 15 years ago or even further back, what would you say if you could
Uh,
sum it up?
keep dreaming, keep reaching. Learn to be still, but don't get sluggish. Keep on. It was something from the '60s. A keep on trucking came from the Grateful Dead. Um, just as long as I feel really motivated and good, you know, it's not so much I need a reason to get out of bed. I can't wait to get going, and I love sleep. Don't get me wrong. Um, But I never, again, I'm sort of repeating myself, which happens when you're my age. Um, it's just such an amazing opportunity. And people that in the music industry that I've looked up to, I've gotten to meet, I've gone to the Grammys. Just to say we've been nominated for Grammys, just so we have never reached the final ballot. I want to be clear, but just to be nominated is an honor. And I love it. And I enjoy our music. I listen to our music every day. And it's not the only music I listen to, but I listen to it every day and I always find it appealing. Partly because we have so many varieties.
What a long, strange trip it's been.
Yeah, and it continues. The beginning chapters have been written, but the conclusion is still awaits. It'll be a magical mystery tour.
We're making all the references.
All the references.
Um, you mentioned you use our music in your personal life. Could you give some specifics of maybe certain albums you use for certain purposes throughout the day?
Well, I don't think it's going to be a revelation to people that being able to meditate is very difficult. There's a lot of things in life that aren't necessarily easy, but are a lot easier than really shutting off our internal dialogue. And what drew me to sound was because I did a month-long meditation program when I was 19 years old. And what I learned from that experience is that how difficult meditation is, how incessantly noisy my mind, my internal dialogue was. And then over the ensuing decades, seeking ways, doing Tai Chi, doing yoga, doing time in nature, doing time as a hermit, many things. And when I learned about the potential of sound, what we call binaural beats was one of the main things. It just lit a light bulb up in me, and and so that really became a spark. So I use our music to facilitate our meditation, and it's really wonderful because we have music in alpha. Like we're in beta right now. We have music in alpha, we have music in theta, we have music in delta, and only in the last 5 years or so did we get tuned into the potential of gamma. So if we're using alpha, theta, and delta to go deeper into meditation, interestingly, gamma is the fastest brain wave, but it has a lot to do with cognition and focus and learning and retention. So I use our music because we specify in a lot of our titles what it is. So if I'm having trouble sleeping, I'll use delta. And if I want to be in a deep, almost dream, but not quite, I'll use theta. If I want to be like a calm and alert and open to info, I use that alpha. And and I don't think you're ever too young to think about brain health. So I definitely listen to 40 hertz every day, gamma. Um, I want to specify for anyone who listens is to get the strongest effect or any effect of binaural beats, you have to have headphones. You have to separate the sound because with binaural beats, whether it's in the music itself or subliminally, we're sending different beats into the right ear and the left ear. And the brain modulates that to a third beat that exists at that moment only inside the head of the listener. And so that's why you need headphones. But you can listen to our music without it. And our 40 hertz, we actually layer. So the instruments are tuned to 40 hertz, composed in 40 hertz. And then if you really want to dose, then you use the headphones with binaurals. So I'm not just a help creator, but I'm a believer and user of what we're creating.
Yeah, awesome. Me too. I use the 40 hertz almost every day to enter a more focused mindset. And I've had some pretty incredible Dreams, Visionary Dreams. I love that track we have. I think it's High Theta Waves.
Yeah,
Cultivate Visionary Dreams.
yes. One of the things
It
we love doing
works.
is titling our work.
Mhm. Some
And I
awesome titles.
and our audience to this, stay tuned because we've been working on a project for over 2 years now that will hopefully release begin before the beginning of next year on I guess it's okay to spill the beans because it's my own intellectual property. Um, on We recorded over 100 medicinal plants using a technology called Plant Wave, and we then used those medicinal plants in therapeutic herbal formulas. And Yuval scored the sounds of the plants, and the album's going to have, I think it's 24 different instruments on it, and there's going to be a vocal track sung by a remarkable opera singer. Um, it's a very complex album. It's the plants. It's like cross species communication. It's not going to sound. It's going to sound beautiful, but it's not going to sound like rhythmic per se. But we've already seen and gotten feedback when we have some albums based on Chinese medicine for headaches and sleep issues and gastric problems. People write back, I put on relieved stomach ache, and my stomach ache was relieved. Now, I'm a believer in the potential of placebo and suggestion. Um, but rather than in the Western model, we see placebo as the fly in the ointment almost. And in integrative medicine, it gives you a head start. If 30% of the people think something's going to help them, why not build on that rather than diminish it? So
Right.
yeah, these are exciting times.
Exciting times indeed. Well, it's always incredible to talk to you and um, get an insight into your thoughts and your experience. It's an honor to work with you, and certainly an honor to interview you, Dr. Gold.
Well, thank you so very much. And all those people who listen to our music, thank you. It gives us a real warmth in our hearts to know that we're influencing people in positive ways.